Celebrating his 31st annual birthday concert on his 70th birthday, Dance Life TV sat down with Bill Evans to find out what it was like to grow up as a male dancer in the 1940s and 50s, and how important family support is for a young mind. Celebrating a lifelong passion is the first episode in Dance Life TV's new miniseries, Bill Evans, 7 Decades of Dance.
The performance I gave last night, April 10th, was the 31st birthday concert I've done. I started this practice in 1980, but this one was kind of special because I just finished my 7th decade, and at first I was just going to celebrate being 70. I didn't know what that meant yet, but it just so happened that as I was planning this concert, I lost my mom, and I lost another woman I call my dance mother. 2 people very, very close to me, very close. I lost them in a very short span of time. So the concert came about honoring those people who'd been so important to me. And my mother was an extraordinary person. She was so, because of the difficulty surrounding my birth, and she called me like at least once a week for all 69 and a half years of my life that she was alive. She called me her miracle baby, because the first months of life and the first few years of life, both my parents just were afraid I wasn't going to make it. I had a whole series of birth injuries. I had a heart murmur, and I had a break in my abdominal wall, and I had a dislocated clavicle, and several birth injuries that I had to kind of deal with as I matured, because from 3 years old I knew I wanted to dance. The only dance I'd ever seen was Fred Astaire dancing in a movie. But I knew, when I was 3 years old, I knew that was my life calling. I mean, I didn't know it in so many words, but that's what I wanted to do. And so somehow, even though my mother couldn't figure out where I came from, she supported me. And she and I together talked my father into letting me take tap dancing lessons. It took a long time. I was 8 and a half before he finally agreed to let me enroll in tap dancing. But my father was an elite athlete. He would keep giving me baseballs and tennis rackets, and I wanted to tap dance. I guess what my father was afraid of was that I was going to be ridiculed by the other kids in school if I tap danced in our little town. And he was right. I was going to be. So finally my father said, well, I'll let you take tap dancing lessons, Billy, if I can find a male tap dancing teacher. So my dad found out that Charles Purrington was about to start a new class, and there were 5 other boys in the class. Of course, within 2 months, all the other boys dropped out. I was the only one. But my father, he would sit there and watch, and he saw how much I loved it and how good I was at it. And so he became my tap dance coach. He would come and watch the lesson, then we'd go home, and he'd coach me and tell me everything that Mr. Purrington had told me. And that we developed a real relationship finally, because he was a coach. He coached baseball, and he understood movement, and that was the key to what became a really wonderful relationship, was when he could see the physical skill involved and how happy it made me. So. Yeah, I think my father just didn't want me to be ridiculed by the other kids, and of course I was. The ridicule and the bullying was probably less at that time. This was in the 1940s, probably less than it would have been 10 years later or 20 years later. But a lot of the kids in school would call me fairy feet and twinkle toes, and that kind of stuff. That was it's really hard when you're young and people yell that kind of stuff at you. But every chance I had, every time there was a talent show or some opportunity, I would get up there in front of the whole student body and tap dance. And after a while, the ridicule stopped. By the time I got to junior high, I was a pretty popular kid. And in high school, I was on the student council. I had to be careful what kind of dancing I did. Once I made a big mistake. We were having a pep assembly before a basketball game, and they asked me to dance, and usually I tap dance, but I was studying jazz, and I'd learned this piece with kind of Latin jazz with a lot of hip movement in it, so I didn't think anything of it. I went up there and I started doing that while the whole bleachers, all the 300 kids in the bleachers started, just all kind of catcalls because I was moving my hips, so I thought, well, no, we'll never do that again. Honestly, I think I knew tap dance was my calling, or dance was my calling, so it didn't bother me. I mean, it bothered me, but it didn't bother me so much that I was willing to stop, put it that way.
Tune in to DanceLifeTV.com for episode 2 in our miniseries, Bill Evans' 7 Decades of Dance. Coming soon, turning aspirations into reality. Dance Life TV encourages you to share the inspiration. Feel free to share this link with your dance friends.